821, Big 550 KTRS. Dr. Bradley Freeman is with us, professor of surgery at Washington University. Good morning, Dr. Bradley Freeman.
Hey, good morning, McGraw.
In terms of full disclosure, are you a George Will fan, a baseball fan, or a Cubs fan?
Well, I have a tremendous respect for Mr. Will, and I think his passion for the Cubs is the one flaw in his otherwise unassailable intellect.
Very good answer. That's why you have a MD on your wall and I don't. Let's get right to it. So what's this story in California? They want to drug test doctors now?
Well, this is an interesting story, and it was reported in the newspapers over the weekend. So, you're going to think the two things I'm about to bring up are totally unrelated, and I would agree with you. So, the one deals with caps on non-economic damages for medical malpractice cases, and this is something that's a flashpoint in Missouri over the last several years, and in Florida and in a number of states. But it turns out that California has had those in place since 1975, and a lot of physicians groups looked at California as, if you will, the leading light in what we would consider tort reform. So in recent years, there's been a tremendous interest driven largely by personal injury lawyers to at least, if not overturn those caps, adjust them for inflation. And apparently, due to focus group testing, they found that if it was coupled with the concept of random drug testing for physicians, that gained traction with the public. And so, interestingly, a referendum is potentially going to be on the ballot in California this year, which would both jointly raise medical malpractice caps as well as call for random drug testing of physicians. So I bring this up because, I think that whatever you would think about the merits of this particular bill, it does raise the question as to does the public think that the physician workforce is adequately policed by that. And I can say that there are a lot of mechanisms in place to identify impaired physicians and treat them and protect the public from them, being practiced on when physicians are impaired. But nonetheless, I think this is one of those issues where we should stay tuned and see how this plays out. And I think that we might see this crop up in other areas of the country.
So the bill, you have to, if you're in California, your choice is up or down on a bill that would raise the non-economic damages and drug test doctors at the same time.
Basically, that would be the referendum.
Yeah.
And as you can imagine, the plaintiffs' attorneys are pushing this and funding it, and the California Medical Society and the Hospital Association and insurance organizations are going to oppose it. And I think this will be something we hear a lot about, and I think there's going to be a lot of money spent on this bill if it truly gets on the ballot.
Yeah, interesting. All right. Doctor, years ago I took a CPR class, and there's a big push to get everybody to take a CPR class?
Well, I applaud you for taking a CPR class, and I think it is important for everybody to take a CPR class. And something's come out recently to, number one, commemorate the fact that CPR is roughly 50 years old, and that, the concept that if someone has a sudden cardiac arrest and collapses, a bystander, someone that it might not be a medical personnel, is nonetheless knowledgeable and able to do bystander CPR, and that has been a tremendous public health boon. But what's become apparent is that if you look at the vast majority of people that suffer these types of heart attacks outside a healthcare setting, that maybe 25 to 30% cases is bystander CPR applied. So emergency care organizations have looked at how can we increase compliance. And so one of the things that appears to be beneficial is to actually have the dispatcher, meaning when someone calls 911, the dispatcher asks some very basic questions such as, is the patient unconscious? Is the patient not breathing? Start CPR, and if you will, coach the individual through that, because I think the problem becomes, even though a lot of us are skilled in CPR and have taken the basic life support class, it's such an uncommon event and so emotionally charged, we don't know what to do when we're actually confronted. And so in the districts where this has been applied, it's increased the rate of bystander CPR by 2 or 3-fold. And in some cases, such as in Washington State, the rate of bystander CPR is on the order of 75%. So that's very favorable. I've talked to some of our ER providers here in St. Louis, and that actually is something that we've employed in St. Louis City and St. Louis County and St. Charles County. So we are practicing that, and I think, again, it brings up the point, as you illustrate, that it's very important to become skilled and knowledgeable about how to do bystander CPR.
I had no idea so many times CPR is needed and conducted from one stranger to another. Is that what you're telling me? Or friend to friend?
Yes, absolutely. You know, I think that the concept of bystander CPR has been a huge boon in terms of public health. So, you know, someone collapses, and someone like yourself has taken a basic CPR course and can do it. And I think the fact that, say, you could or someone that is with you talk to a dispatcher and coach you through the initial phases. I mean, I think that is a tremendous public health potential.
I am always shocked at the level of care strangers give to one another, and the level of hatred strangers give one another. Right? I mean, it's such a positive and a negative. I mean, I'm just blown away by how gracious strangers are to strangers, and just blown away by how mean we are to each other. It's an unbelievable human phenomenon.
Yeah, I still think the former outweighs the latter, but I think as usual, you are very observant.
Doctor, that's why you're brilliant, and that's why you're a doctor, because of those smart insights. Dr. Bradley Freeman, professor of surgery at Washington University. Doctor, thank you. Always be safe, and we'll talk to you next week.
Have a great day.
Cat Neville with Feast Magazine. That's all straight ahead, and we'll talk a little hockey with Andy Strickland and Jamal Mayer.